Good afternoon and welcome to the Great Sober Sex Forum. My name is Nikas and I am an alcoholic.
Hey, Nikas.
Let's just go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Keone and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi,
Keone.
Jose Luce, alcoholic addict.
Hi,
Jose.
Luce.
I'm Barry, alcoholic.
Barry.
Hey, Barry.
I'm Marc. I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Hey, Rick.
Rick.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark, and I'm a tweaker alcoholic.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome everybody and welcome to the people online that are tuning in. I'd like to start today actually with a prayer and actually a little bit of a guided meditation, because that just seemingly lately that's what seems to be coming up. So we'll start with the Serenity Prayer, which we all know, and then right after that we'll close our eyes and just kind of get comfortable in this space. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alright, just get comfortable in our chairs here. I know that meditation for me really just helps slow the mind down before chatting, before talking. So just come into a deep state of relaxation. Absolute surrender. Investigating what happens when I'm not actually doing something. Meditation I found is really, it's not an ego doing egoic activity so I can have an egoic result of being happy. Good afternoon and welcome to the Great Sober Sex Forum. My name is Nikas and I am an alcoholic.
Hey, Nikas.
Let's just go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Keone and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi,
Keone.
Jose Luce, alcoholic addict.
Hi,
Jose.
Luce.
I'm Barry, alcoholic.
Hi,
Barry.
Hey, Barry.
I'm Marc. I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Hey, Rick.
Rick.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark, and I'm a tweaker alcoholic.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome everybody and welcome to the people online that are tuning in. I'd like to start today actually with a prayer and actually a little bit of a guided meditation, because that just seemingly lately that's what seems to be coming up. So we'll start with the Serenity Prayer, which we all know, and then right after that we'll close our eyes and just kind of get comfortable in this space. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alright, just get comfortable in our chairs here. I know that meditation for me really just helps slow the mind down before chatting, before talking. So just come into a deep state of relaxation. Absolute surrender. Investigating what happens when I'm not actually doing something. Meditation I found is really, it's not an ego doing egoic activity so I can have an egoic result of being happy. True meditation is actually the discovery of what happens when I just truly surrender. I just truly let go. Just come into a deep state of listening. Listen with our ears. This is all of our senses. Listen with our whole body. We're just one big sensing organ, sensing machine. All right, a couple deep breaths, bring us back into the room. You locate yourself in the middle of this sex meeting, this sex forum. So spiritual practice I've really found is an integral part of not only sobriety but a part of life. So my first sponsor before he directed me to go fuck my brains out sober. He directed me to pray beforehand and meditate beforehand so that I could intuitively know, so I could intuitively hear what the presence was telling me. Yes, no, walk away, don't do this. Just intuitively have that sense of presence. So, we kind of think our spiritual life is going to be this sort of aspect or this, but it turns out like the entire thing, right? I mean, fucking is spiritual because it's happening in this life. So really, there's no separation, there's no compartmentalizing between my spiritual life and my sexual life and my AA life and my work life. It's just all one big experience. And as I spiritually awaken, I come to realize that I actually am spirit having an experience as this guy named Nikas. So spiritual connection to me, like doing this prayer and this meditation stuff, especially before a meeting like this, allows me to just kind of tune in, tune off, allows my brain to just, and I find that it's really amazing to do before sex. You don't have to do it with the partner, but you can if you like, but it's a great way to sort of just kind of let go, and then you can fully show up present for whatever it is you're doing. And if it's fucking at a fuck club, showing up present to do that. So, okay. This is Keone, this is Marc, our lovely speakers today. The purpose of the forum today is to really give ourselves a space to dialogue sex. What I've kind of come to notice is within the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and all the other fellowships, you can go to a sex and sobriety meeting, but it's a one-way, it's not a dialogue, it's just a one-way, what do you call that when it's monologue? It's just an outward speaking. Now you can run into the person after the meeting, you can say, hey, I was kind of thinking, but really meetings are not the sort of place where you have an open dialogue. And, what I've come to sort of understand is through this whole we're all sexual beings. Sex is a huge part of our sobriety as gay guys. So we need some place to be able to talk about that, to be able to really dialogue and get into the experience and understanding and the comfortableness of what it means to be a sexual being. And not just, a person in sobriety who wants to go get laid on the side. But really bring all of that into sobriety, because this is what I am. I'm a sober guy, and as a gay guy, I have sex. So that's the purpose of this meeting, is to really create this space. If you're triggered at any point, if the topic is too graphic at any point, I just invite everyone to breathe. There's a meeting that follows this meeting, Sex and Sobriety, downstairs. So if people need to have a decompression place, that's a place to be able to do that. Housekeeping. It's 2:30 to 5:30. We'll just, obviously, there's not that many people, so we'll go through it however we need to. For reasons of privacy, we just ask that whatever you hear here, whoever you see here, keep it here. No yik yak. And please note that everybody has a different experience, right? Everybody's coming from a different place. Everybody has a different set of background influences that have influenced their lives and their journeys that have arrived in here. So we just want to be respectful to everybody. And as well as open-minded, knowing that we all came here with whatever shit brought us here. But then we can actually be open to the fact that there might be things that we didn't even know we didn't even know. So we're recording this meeting for the people online, just so if anybody has a problem with that, just FYI. A little break the ice sex story. So last night, a number of us went to communion, right, which is BBRT's bareback, fun sex party thing, and it's great to be able to have friends in sobriety that you can go and do these sorts of things with, because this is reality. This is life. It's funny. I post these pictures in the group Indulgent Abstainers, and I'm always surprised how people are so amazed at the openness, amazed at the sense of not shameful, amazed at and really it's like, but isn't that what we're all going for? I mean, isn't that the life? Isn't that freedom? Isn't that what freedom really is? It's just not having this shameful upstairs telling you what you can and cannot do. I mean, that's the bondage of self. Right, so we're going for freedom here. So last night was a wonderful night. A lot of us got very well laid. I want to read. There's a post that got written through me. It's funny when I write this stuff lately. It's kind of like I'm not writing. It's like this writing is happening through me, and then I get to read it afterwards, and then I get to right. So it's because it gets written by me. It's actually like becomes a part of the fabric of me, but it's kind of me from a little grander scale, which I'm getting used to understanding now. So it says this month's primary topic of conversation will be our relationship to, or how we engage the wacky world of online sex and hookup sites. So it's not just the sites, it's the way we're relating to these things. We all need sex, and these sites and apps offer us a way to cruise and peruse the profiles of others interested in the same thing that we are, which is getting laid now. How we approach and engage these sites can either keep us sober and well-sexed, or they end up us puzzled and confused on how we got loaded and relapsed one more time. But if we're honest, we have to admit, if we relapse, it's never the fault of the site, right? It's never, the site didn't do it to me. I did it to me. So, what I've come to realize is it's the honest or dishonest way in which we approach these sites and apps. So seemingly we need to investigate and bring much more awareness to our relationships to the site. How I engage, how I approach, it says, when you approach and draw near to God. Well, when you want sex, you approach and draw near the website, or you approach and draw near the bar. It's like there's just the way that we do this, right? So, but really, it's like we have to kind of be very honest and thoughtful about the way that we're actually doing this, and are there motivations? Are there hidden agendas? Are there reservations? Are there little things that we still haven't cleared up yet? That we're and so often I kind of find it's like you don't really find that shit out until you find it out, and sometimes you have to find out the hard way. But powerless means I've had 5 relapses in my sobriety, and what I've really learned is powerless doesn't mean that I have power. It means that I have lost the power in choice. So a power greater than me gives me this power, but if for some reason I'm not seeking that power, then I'm on my own. I'm like the cell phone battery, it's on fucking red, and I'm just trying to do things my way. Instead, when it's on red, I can plug it into the wall and have an external power source that makes it operate and act like a normal phone. But if not, it's like in danger mode. So, bring your struggles, your fears, your concerns, your worries. What should prove a lively and informative topic of conversation. So that's the basic principle of what we're going to talk about today. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay. Keone.
Hi, I'm Keone, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict and a gay man who engages in sex. And so I've been my mind, I'm gonna really try not to impress anybody, because that's what my mind wants me to do, is to like impress, and I'm gonna try to be as honest as possible. I'm gonna start from the beginning of my sexual experience, before drugs, during, and then we'll get to the good stuff, which was my sex and sobriety, which is the far more interesting topic to me. So I lost my virginity at an early age to an older man, which was kind of gave me this delusion of I knew what I was doing, and kind of gave me this egoic like, oh, I've been there. Kids, I know what's going on. And I kind of carried that through, but through my adolescence, through my teen years, and into my 20s, but with very actual like little experience after that. That the man moved away, and that all stopped. But since I'd created this story of like I know what I was doing, I had to keep up appearances, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I had this huge shame around. And unknowing, I just didn't know. No one taught me how to fuck. No one taught me the logistics of what it is to be a bottom, like what you need to do. So I just kind of flew blind until I found Tina, until I found crystal meth. And I'm actually very thankful that I'm sober now, but that I have had the experience with crystal, because I have run through the gamut of every fantasy. I've either done it, seen it, watched it on black market videos, or or had some experience with it. And I'm thankful that I did. I got that all out of the way. I had, early in my tweaking years, I had, his name was Ed, but he showed me the ropes. He was a tweaking daddy. And I was 18, and he showed me the ropes of how to do it all, like from shower shots to toys to what, all of it. Just gave me the logistics. And without the drug, without my addiction, I would have never had that. I would have never gotten so comfortable in my position and as a bottom, and how to navigate and to have all these experiences. So that was fun, that was great until it stopped working, until the paranoia showed up, until, life turns to absolute shit. And then I got sober. I started getting sober, I come to the rooms, and in my early sobriety, for better or for worse, two of the things that I found, I needed to, I thought, were very important and needed to be addressed early on in my sobriety were my social life, and still being able to go out into public at night, go dancing, and sex. Luckily, I had very sex-positive sponsors, still do, and so that's where my journey into having sex and sobriety, and learning how much of my past experiences with Tina, what I still want to carry forward and what I wanted to leave behind. What was just fantasy, what was for them. That those experiences, what was I going to leave behind, and what did I want to take with me? What was the genuine fetish or not fetish, or I had a really difficult time, because I was very proud of how adventurous I thought I was until how adventurous I thought I was. I had a really hard time okaying vanilla, quote unquote normal sex, two people getting naked and having intercourse. I was like, I'm not that guy. I'm not boring. I'm not basic. But sometimes I am, and it's never boring. I had to allow myself to be both, to be a spectrum of my sexuality. I had to allow myself, and I had to do work around it. I had wrapped up such a part of my identity in that story, and I had to let go of that story. Like so many stories, I had to let go of when I came into sobriety. So that's part of that unraveling that and figuring out what was me, what was the drug, what was still me, what is the old me, and what am I and looking not too far in the future, but yeah, sex would take me out. I was so fearful, like that's where always my relapse were, always. But I knew, for me, when I knew, like looking back, I knew exactly what I was doing. I just believed the lie that I was going to do it different this time. I pride myself on being able to clock a tweaker profile from like a mile away. Like I know the verbiage, I know the shady pictures from your shitty webcam. I know the look, and whether it's like intuition or like logics, I know. I'm proud of that. And whether I choose to engage with you or not in the veil of, oh, you're gonna get high and I'm not. Like, my last go out, and I really think this is what was a turning point for me, was I no longer believed that lie. I had acquired some time, a few months, and I had gone to a particular site that is very geared, the members are quite geared towards partying and chems. And I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew, and then I got that same anxiety and that same tickle in my stomach, the same nervous shit. So I was like, oh my God, why am I so nervous? Shaking, literally shaking. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get high. That's what's gonna happen right now. And I had, I did not have a spiritual connection at that moment. I wasn't praying, and I wasn't meditating, and I wasn't doing the steps. I went and got high. And that would just happen to be my last go out. I turned around and I looked at it. I was like, oh, I'm going to get high. That's what's happening right now. The motions that I had, the intent from the beginning was to. I really had no intent of staying sober. But that was that. That was just my last go out. And I looked at that experience, and I looked at it for exactly what it was. And I was no longer ashamed or scared to look at it, or I was like, okay, so that was fun, and then it wasn't fun. So then that was where my work came in, and I got a sponsor who was, like I said, sex positive, and could tell anything to, and there was no shame. And he directed me to, in sobriety, to not only do the work, pray, meditate, clear some of, the clear some of my mind with spiritual shit, like just to clear out some of the cobwebs. But I'm gonna get horny. I'm gonna get randy, and porn and jerking off will not satiate that for me. So I was directed to sit down, and I still do this with every profile that I write on multiple websites that I've had over the years, and I still have. I sit down and I pray to write the exact profile that I the intent is to stay sober and to get what I want sexually, and to be able to ask for it. So I sit down, I ask God to write it for me, and I go. I sit down and I write it, and I reread it, and usually it doesn't take much in the way of revision. And it's one of my profiles just happens to be printed out here in Word form, on printed form, and it's pretty much how all my profiles read. And it's sobriety. I just happen to bear back and to ask for all the things that are basically deal breakers. I really, but it's focused on me and what's not okay for me. It's never focused on what you're doing, because I have no control over you, nor is that any of my business. If you want to go slam, that is okay. I just can't be around it. I can't do it. I can't hang. And if you are, more power to you. If you can party like a gentleman, do it. But I can't hang. I know that. And it's not fun for me. there's a substance that blocks us from having a spiritual connection. So that's kind of like a little bit of my profile. I had all the things that I was going to talk about, but they've all left me because God is now speaking through me. So I'm just trying to so that's like the way my profiles read nowadays. I've done a lot of work around. I've had a lot of issues come up around sex and sobriety because I'm present. Because I don't have a substance between us. I don't have alcohol. I have no problem with drinkers. I've hooked up with plenty of normies. Side note, most of the guys that I hook up with who are not in the rooms, who don't have substance abuse problems, a lot of them verbatim were like, your sobriety is so sexy. It's because it's so prevalent online that there's so many tweakers and there's so many of us out there that are still, and that there are plenty of people who don't and who just want to have a good time, and then we show up loaded and it's no fun for them because we're a mess. We're looking out the window, we can't get it up, we want to call over 5 more guys, and they're sitting right to your house, not my house. To your house. I want to call 5 more guys to your house.
To fuck me.
To fuck me. Right. That's not fun for normies, or I hate that term, just for lack of a better term. For those who aren't, who don't have the blessing of having addiction to alcohol, drugs, or whatever, that's no fun for them. So to show up present and to be able to fuck like you are on drugs, but connect on a human level, and have no shame around that, that's hot. That's really hot. And I like that. And then you're like, oh, you may not have the same affliction, but you really like that too? That's awesome. But I've had to it didn't all come easy. So because I am a gay man, I feel my story is so, I'm horny all the time. And it's, and that's just part of my life, and sex is a huge part of my life, but also on the flip side is there was so much shame about what I wanted, who I wanted to be, and how uncomfortable I felt in my skin, let alone being naked in front of someone else, asking them to do, these things that I had so much shame around. So, God, I didn't deal with it all at once. I have 2.5 years sober, I think. I don't know. I try not to get too nitty gritty with the days, and I have the counter. That's what the app is for. Right. I have 2 years and 2.5 years. Fuck it. And I'm finally coming to a place where I'm comfortable at saying I'm a bottom. I'm an HIV undetectable. And I bear back, and if you don't, that's fine, but it's a deal breaker for me. There's a lot of bottom shame in our community, and I want to get into that, but I can't change how you feel, but I can change the way I feel about myself and my sexual role. I've had a lot of body dysmorphia, being super, super, super uncomfortable in everything from my skin color to how hairy I am, how tall I am, how thin I was, everything. And there's some of those things I can, I could change. I've gotten more comfortable with my skin. The shape that I'm in now, that I'm in recovery, is has been something that I never could have done before the program, to commit to something, to carry it out, and to and to have a physical change. But in that, with God, showed me that ain't gonna fix you. Mm-hmm. You're still gonna be sad, lonely, upset, happy. None of the physical, though it doesn't hurt, whatever you change on the outside is not going to change my insides. So I've had emotional breakdowns over over hookups where and it's all in my head, all on my side. all of it is in here, in this body. Very little of it is actually coming at me from an outside source necessarily. I went to a clothing optional pool party full of it was a mixed bag. It was all men, but there was alcohol. There wasn't drugs necessarily. I don't. I mean, it was during the daytime. It was outside during the daytime. So I don't think there were a lot of us tweaking there. If there were, I didn't fucking notice because I was so caught up in my own thinking, and I was thrust, and it was a catalyst for me. I'm very thankful for this emotional mental breakdown, but it was last year, and I went, and there was nothing wrong, and it was every color, shape, size, it wasn't like anything that, it was a beautiful party, full of gay men of every flavor, and all I could do was compare and contrast, and I had support, but I didn't take the action to go, hey, I'm in thinking mode and I need help. So what I did was just shut down, turn off, because I didn't want to ruin his good time, making decisions for other people, that, and I held it together for the whole party, and then we left. I talked to the other uncomfortable person, and we just co-signed each other's bullshit, and I went home with a huge resentment against my friend, a huge resentment against myself, my body, the way I looked, about how I reacted, how I got in my own head, how all of it, just whatever my ego could latch onto, a resentment. I mean, because it wasn't just clothing. It wasn't clothing optional. You checked your clothes at the door, so it was an even playing field. We were all naked as the day we were born. So I go home and I lose my fucking shit alone. I call my sponsor, who's super, and I'll talk about the kind of things we talk about in a second, but call my sponsor after I have an emotional breakdown, call my best friend, who was my support system, and I just lost it. It broke. And so, it wasn't pretty, but is what needed to happen for me in that. From that moment on, I got even more honest. This is what it got. The point is, I got more honest because I couldn't hold it in anymore. I had to get honest with my sponsor even more. And this is where I'm at on this end when it comes to my sex, my sobriety. Like I'm in struggle. I'm in thinking, and I'm in pain. I got honest with my friend. And I got to say, I felt abandoned, I felt alone, and this is my part. Like, I didn't reach out. You can't read my mind. And for me, this seemingly like frivolous naked pool party broke the dam of vulnerability for me. There's nothing, I was naked in a water, like I felt so vulnerable and so alone in a pool full of like 100 men. So I guess kind of the point of that story is, in my sobriety and in my sex life, I have people who I can be 100% honest with. 100. I'm not like, he knows some, he knows some, he knows some. No, he knows all of it, he knows all of it, and he knows all of it. It doesn't mean I'm that honest with all of my friends that way, but I'm honest with my sponsor. I'm honest with a few friends. I'm like, hey, is this normal to have a growth like this? Like, that kind of honesty. Can you come over? I have this like thing on my ass that's, whatever. Can you look at it? Like, I have no shame with these people. And that's through work and through being vulnerable, and then in turn them coming to me with no judgment or shame, saying, no, it looks fine, or maybe you should go to the hospital for that. Or, we're going to tell this story. I took something for erectile dysfunction that I don't necessarily need. It lasted more than 4 hours, and I went to the fucking hospital alone. And that's something that would have driven me with so much shame, because the reason I took it was because I just want to make sure that everything was working for this situation. I was going to be as versed as I could. I just wanted to make sure. It's not something I need yet, and so I think my body probably overreacted. And 9 hours later, I was left in pain and in the ER alone. But the beauty of being able to get honest with my sponsor, honest with my friend, was there was no judgment. I sat there alone going, you did this, and it's okay. They're not going to cut it off. It's going to be fine. It may need to get drained. But I called my friend, and I was like, so guess where I'm at? I'm in the ER with a 9-hour erection. Fuck my life. But we laughed. And I had to call my sponsor, who was supposed to meet for breakfast, and go, hey, Carlos, I'm not going to be able to meet you because I'm in the ER with a 9-hour erection from taking Trimex. And we both laughed, and it was like, it's a knowing laugh. And then he shared a story with me later on in kind of the reverse way. Like, he went to the ER for something else. And it's a knowing laughter going, I've been there too. So having no shame and having no secrets about what I do, who I do, it doesn't mean that, like, when I told my mom I was coming to speak on a panel about sobriety, sex and sobriety, it wasn't like, oh, Mom, so I've been really into fisting lately. No. My mom doesn't need to know that part, but she does know that I'm a sexually active gay male in my 30s. Like, that's the kind of dialogue I have with her, but I don't necessarily get into every messy detail with every person, because it may not be appropriate. I.e. my mother, my nephews, my brother, like there's not, they know about my sobriety, they know I'm single, and they know I date, but as long as I don't necessarily have secrets from them, or that I can be honest with them, or at least I can be honest with a handful of people about what I'm either thinking about doing, what I'm doing, what I'm into, who I'm seeing. That's the important part for me, and that there's no shame. There's no shame in my game anymore. The honesty seeps through on my profile. I'm so in life I am sober. At work I am sober. Doesn't mean I recite the 12 steps at work, but people know I don't drink and that I don't do drugs, any of them. And that's for me. Some people that's not their story, and that's totally okay for them. It's not how I live my life in my sobriety. I have to be 100% honest with what it feels right, and living by intuition. I don't know what the fuck I started, but and I'll kind of wrap up with this, I guess, that my transparency in my life. Oh, total side note. So my face is on my profiles. I have no shame. I have not, and that's fine. Like, some people don't have their face for a multitude of reasons. That is that I have literally no judgment for. That's your choice. I concern myself less with what other people do in their sex lives and their life, because it's not mine. It's not mine to judge. It's not mine to live. I don't have to agree with it, and I don't have to do it. But I show my face on my profiles. I have a few profiles, apps. I think I have 2 and 2, like old school, I guess we call them, old school profiles. Yeah, 2 of those, and then 2 apps. That, yeah, 2 or just 1, yeah, 2 apps, but I think only one of them is on my phone, and the other 2 are on my iPad at home. Like, I don't, but so on the geolocating app, I have my face. We'll go over it, and it's a sober pup, and it is as unabashedly honest and as unabashedly me as possible. Again, I concern myself. My profiles are about me and what I need, and it's not about you doing the wrong thing for me. Like, if you're like, I don't say tweakers are disgusting. I can't hang out with tweakers. It's more like, you do you. I'm gonna do me, and maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle. But these are the things I can't do. But I've had friends and acquaintances come up to me in meetings, going, like, just kind of like respectfully and gently go, "Hey, Sober Pup," which is my screen name, and we both have a laugh. And I've gotten some genuine compliments and gratitude for it. You know, a friend, an acquaintance of mine said, "It's so, I know you, and I read this profile, and it's one the same. It's so you." And that was the biggest compliment that someone could pay me about my profile, because I no longer want to front. I don't want to be somebody else online. I don't want to try and be something that I think you want. I'm gonna do me and be as honest and kind as possible with it. And I think that's one of the biggest kind of barometers for me in my sex and sobriety is and people have negative opinions, they tend to keep it to themselves, but the ones who have a positive, kind words to say feel comfortable enough to come up to me respectfully and say thank you, or love the profile, or even online go, "Hey, I know, hey buddy, what's up? Like the profile, thumbs up," like that kind of, they feel comfortable. And that's something I always looked for in other people and partners, and no matter how wild's mild, things got in the bedroom, I always looked for someone, a safe space with that partner, if it's for a night or if it's for like 4 weeks. And I get to create that now. I get to be the one that creates a safe space. I get to be the one that creates everything on the table. And it's a safe space that you can bring everything that you want to bring to the table. So I'm just gonna end on that. And thank y'all for showing up.
Thank you, Keone. And Mark.
That was fast. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Mark.
So, thank you, Keone. That was awesome. Yeah, I love your honesty. And I'm going to have to go look for some. Although we're not compatible, but
Doesn't mean we can't be friends.
So let's see. What I want to talk about. Okay, let me get some stats out of the way. I'll be 62 this month. Years old. And I am a little over 21 years clean and sober. I know, right? I just like a brief history. I did a lot of experimentation in the 70s with all kinds of drugs. Found crystal meth. That was my love. Didn't find meth until I was in my early 30s. So did a lot of exploration along the way. I want to say that I came out of the closet I acknowledged my own sexuality officially in 1976. I came out to my parents a few years later. I did some exploration or experimentation before I came out. I had a lot of shame and guilt just about being gay. And that, it was a different time back then. So we didn't have role models. And growing up, I had these feelings, thought I was the only one. Like, I had to keep that a secret. And then when I started to come to terms with it, I was already smoking pot, doing mescaline, other mind-altering substances, and so when I actually finally came out, like, I was a big rainbow flag waving activist queer. Okay, but I had never had sex sober, and I carried that forward really for decades, And so when I came out in 1976, or pretty close to 76, the movie Cruising came out with Al Pacino. And for those of you who might not be familiar with, okay, well, you're all familiar. For those of you who are listening, it was a murder mystery that took place in New York in the leather community, and Al Pacino went undercover to, as he was a cop, went undercover to try to solve the crime. As a 21-year-old gay man just coming out, having these kind of fantasies, but then seeing this movie, it suddenly took that idea and I stuffed it. Like, it's like, oh my God, what happens if somebody ties me up and then they kill me? And I became so engulfed in fear over that I never explored those things that, like you talked about. Like I hear in the rooms a lot of people talk about their incomprehensible demoralization. Those are the things that I didn't act on because I was too afraid. And so I used meth for a number of years. I sold meth. I ended up in prison. The long story short is that I still used for about 6 months in prison, got in trouble, had a moment of clarity, a spiritual awakening that allowed me to walk through that narrow window and say, my higher power said to me, asked me, do you want to die? And I said, no, I don't want to die. And he said, well, then you need to change everything. And it was like a conversation, like, he said, you need to change everything. And so when I did get out of the hole, I decided that I wasn't going to use it anymore while I was in prison because it was too complicated. And I lost visitation for a few months and certain privileges, and they transferred me. And so it was just a problem, so I'm not going to use. So I was in prison for 10 years, and I was graced with my entire 40s in prison. So my midlife crisis happened while I didn't have to do it out here. So I had about 9.5 years clean and sober when I got out of prison, and I got out, and I didn't have any friends left. I really had nothing, like $300 in my pocket and a little bit of hope, and that's all I had. And I was 50 years old at that point, and I had been off the grid basically for 21 years, 10 years in prison and 11 years selling drugs and producing porn. So here I am. What do I do? And I found my way. And one day at a time, I put my life back together. Initially, I'm a very social person. So initially, I get out of prison, I don't know anybody, and I'm thinking I have to go out to the clubs and the bars and meet somebody. And what ended up happening was that one of the two friends I had left had about 4.5 years sober, and he invited me to a meeting. And I walked into the room. It was at Motos in Hayworth on Monday night, and there's hundreds of gay people there. And I was like, oh. I don't have to go to the bars. I can make friends here. And so I was able to maintain a continuity in my sobriety. And then I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. And here's where it all sort of happened. Like, I had in the course of doing the steps, I discovered, like I did a sex inventory, and I discovered that, oh my God, I have shame about being gay, but I've been out for 30 years, and I've had all this sex. Well, you know, when I was tweaking, it was still vanilla sex. It might have been for a week long, but it wasn't, you know, anything, you know, extraordinary. It was just fucking and sucking. And, I mean, it was fun, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't what I fantasized about. It wasn't what really got me going. And then I discovered this business about cruising and this internalized leather phobia. And my sponsor said to me, you know, you need to explore that. You need to, you know, you've got a lot of sobriety and you've been through the steps, and you have the freedom to act on those fantasies and find out what your boundaries are, what your, you know. And so I did, little by little. I had a friend who invited me to a monthly club, bondage club, and I got tied up for the first time, and it was like amazing. It was like I was in a performance art piece suddenly, you know. And it was like suddenly. Now I want to just say that I didn't just happen to go to this thing, and like it wasn't. It was a sober decision. It was a spiritual decision. I had done a lot of work around my connection with my higher power, and you know, I've had, aside from the night that I got struck sober, I had I've had a number of spiritual experiences where my higher power spoken to me on different issues, and one specifically that I want to talk about is as part of my living amends to my family. I'm Jewish. I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley here, and as part of my living amends to my parents, I go with them on the Jewish high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, to synagogue. Because I know, well, my sponsor said, you know, that you could do this and this and this as part of the living amends, because I'm like overwhelmed with how I can make it right to them. And I said to him, well, how long do I do that for? And he said, well, you do it until you want to. Then your amends is complete. And so I want to say now, you know, here I am, you know, 12 years out of prison, and having done the steps a few times and been doing this amends. Then now I love my parents. I love that I get to spend time with them, and I love that I get to do things with them. So here I am in synagogue with them on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and we're doing there's a thing, it's called the Silent Amida, and it's, you read out of the prayer book. You read these prayers, and you just kind of read it yourself, and then they do it again in unison later. But I'm in this room, there's 1,100 people around me, and everybody is in the book, and they're like, kind of, you know, you hear this murmuring of like 1,100 people, and there's this buzz in the room, and I heard somebody call out my name, and I turned around to look, and everybody's in the books, and their heads are down, and they're worshiping, and I went back to the book, and then I heard my name again, and I went, what? And my dad said, shh, and I said, sorry. And I just sort of, but it got my attention. And so then this voice said to me, take a look around you. So I took that in, and I took a look around me, and I see all these people worshiping. And then the voice said to me, after a pause, he said, most of these people are here looking for me. So I said, okay. And, you know, I'm waiting, and there's this pause, and I have time to contemplate what that means, that these people are looking for me. And then he said, and I feel this like tapping on my chest, and he said, you bring me with you wherever you go. And that's all I heard. But there in my mind went, and I was like, wow, what does that mean? And after some contemplation, I realized that, okay, God is with me, God is in me, a part of me, this higher power, this universal entity, this energy is what gives me life, what just breathes life into me, and is always with me and with everybody. And it's everywhere, and it's a part of everything that lives, And so I was like, it gave me this freedom. It's like, oh my God, so God has always been with me. God has always been in me. And so I am a spiritual being having human experiences. And if I'm a spiritual being having human experiences, it's okay to have human experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is a very human experience. But when I have these experiences and they're open and they're honest, and I go to these clubs like the Bondage Club, or sex parties, or one-on-one with somebody that I'm intimate with, that I have feelings for, I'm having spiritual experiences because I'm a spiritual being. So there's no separation for me. I acknowledge that God is with me and that God keeps me safe. And I've moved forward in that community, and I've had some of the most amazing experiences. I had a partner before I got sober in the 80s who was murdered, and there was a time, after his death, I had a couple of years where I was grieving and mourning, and then I met somebody and fell in love again, and that was beautiful. And then the feds broke us up. I'm at this event, and this person ties me up, and he puts a hood on me, and there's music playing in the background, and the music is all this 80s stuff from like Depeche Mode and The Cure and the Communards, and Billy, my partner that was murdered, he was a DJ, and he used to do mixtapes at home, and this was in the late 80s, and that was the music that I've always heard at home, and that I most associated with him. And so here I am on the table, and I'm bound, and I'm blindfolded, and the only senses I have are my hearing, my sense of smell, and my sense of touch. And these guys are manipulating me, and I go into this zone, and it becomes Billy, my partner, that's doing the manipulation and is playing with me. And that was real. It wasn't imagined, it was real for me. And after, I don't know how long it was, an hour or so, I get up off the table, they've taken everything, And my first words were, thank you, God. Because he gave me the experience that I never thought I would have again. I don't need to have that experience again, but the point of that is that I get to have spiritual experiences in no matter what I do. And there's no shame in that. I don't have shame anymore. I have pride, and I get to fully experience all aspects of my sexuality. You were talking about on the apps how honest you are. I don't. I have a couple profiles that are on my phone and on my desktop, and in my profile there's two things that I talk about. I don't talk about them. Two things that I mention. I mention my sobriety date, and I mention that I'm negative. But I'm very clear. I very clearly put, like what date. Like I'm tested every few months, so every time I have a new test, I'll change the date on that. But I put, my sobriety date, and so I'm very clear that I'm not going to use, I'm 62. I tend to like guys who are younger than me. I'm submissive, so if you didn't figure that out already. I'm submissive, so and most guys who are younger who like older men want them to be the daddy or want them to be the dom. So I'm clear about that, and I'm clear about really, like you said, everything that works for me. And it really narrows down the number of people that'll click on my profile or that'll send me a message. except for the people that don't read.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
There's a lot of them, and that gives me the opportunity to say, "Don't you read?" Like on Recon, which is a fetish site, Recon, my profile name, because when you're creating your profile, they say pick a name that best describes what you're into. So my Recon profile name is bound sub the number 4 U, the letter U. So bound sub for you. That's pretty, anyway. But it narrows a window of guys that will come at me, but it means that it's a filter for me. So I don't have all these guys that are using me.
Right.
If I go to the baths, like I haven't been to the baths in a while. The last time I was a couple of years ago, I went to Flex, and I had 2 or 3 guys like asking me if I was using or if I was looking. They were trying to sell or they were looking for something. The one guy that I hooked up with had crystal dick and he couldn't get his dick hard. And I'm like, after I was there for about an hour, and I said, I gotta go.
Right.
This is fun. I went before they closed, I went to the Hollywood Spa shortly after I got out of prison. And it's 3 floors of fun, right? And there were times when I'd be there for 16, 24, 40 to 8 hours and just going up and down the stairs and fucking and whatever. I was there for like 3 hours and I left there exhausted. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't come back here anymore. It's just, I don't have the energy for this place. So, you have to like basically pick and choose the things that work for you.
Yeah.
But what works for me is telling the truth, being honest. And what works for me is if I'm in a scene with somebody that's a fetish scene, being able to not be afraid to say, the safe word if it comes to that. But being open to the possibility that I can try something that I haven't done before. Hey, let's see what that's like. Because I know I'm protected. I have a higher power that's protecting me.
Yeah.
And I will never go over to somebody's house and get tied up if I don't know them, if we haven't met and I haven't had some experience with them, and nobody else is around. I won't do that, But I will, in a public venue. Those clothing optional or clothing less parties. I'm never naked because I always wear my cock ring. So, but I remember there was a weekend where there was a pool party fundraiser. I think it was for AALA. It was about 3 or 4 years ago. And we were there, and for AALA, it's not clothing optional. It's not a sexual pool party. It's just a bunch of guys having fun, raising money for the convention. But I had a friend that was there that said, "Hey, I got invited to this pool party. Do you want to go for a little while? We can come back. But you want to go for a little while? It's clothing optional." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." Then it was more exciting for me to go to the place where people were naked, because we're gay men and we like to be naked. And then they had a room in the house where there was activities going on, and then outside by the pool where people were just kind of relaxing and or playing with each other a little bit, but nothing serious. But I went into the playroom, and I saw a sponsee of mine. And I was like, he didn't see me, and I told him about it later, but he didn't see me, and I just sort of backed out of the room, and I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to give him the freedom to play without having to worry about what am I going to think, and there are some play parties that I have other sponsees that go to, like the one last night, and I choose not to go when I know that a sponsee is going to be there. Because I think, they're going to get honest with me. He tells me pretty much everything that happens. But I don't want it to be like an issue for him or an uncomfortable situation for him having me there. And, vice versa. I want the freedom of being able to play the way I like to play. And we can talk about it. Talk is different than being a part of, and so I keep that separate, my sobriety with my my sexuality, in terms of the activity itself. But the fact that I do what I do and the way that I play the way I play, some of my sponsees ask me to sponsor them because they see that freedom and they know that they can tell me anything and that they can be honest with me. And so I just want to say that that at my core, I just want to reiterate what I said before, which is that I'm a spiritual being having having spiritual experiences as a human being, and that God always comes with me. So when I'm engaged sexually, my higher power is there. The other thing that we haven't really talked about, or that I haven't talked about, is that there's the sexual ideal versus looking for a partner in life and navigating that. Now I'm 21 years sober and I'm single still, like since I got locked up. So I'm a little 22 years single. And, I would like to meet somebody that I could be, emotionally attached to, as well as physically attached to. And I'm sure that in my higher power's time, in the laws of the universe's time, that will happen again for me. I've been blessed with a couple of good relationships in the past, so I know what that's like, and I know that I'd like to do that again. And it'll be a lot different this time because I'll be sober. I've never been I've never had a sober partner before. So that's my ideal. And I used to say, oh, I guess he's still in the oven cooking. But the truth is, I'm still in the oven. The truth is that every day that I keep an open mind, and every day that I allow myself to have that freedom of self, every day I learn and I grow, and that when the time is right, my partner will come. And in the meantime, I'm going to have fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so let's take a 15-minute break, and when we come back, we'll just discuss our profiles and the online sex and the drama that we might incur with all that stuff. So 50 minutes. All right, thanks.